G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. Now, if you don't want to watch the whole review, I'll cut to the chase. Great camera, buy it. It's really a fantastic little camera. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the SJ7 Star from SJCam. Now, this was sent to me by GearBest. I always disclose when people send me products. Sent to me by GearBest. It is, as you can see, it's a sort of GoPro format action camera. And as usual with all these little action cameras, it comes with a bunch of different things. You know, you can put this on the handlebars of your miniquad. See? No, honestly, it's a general action camera. It's not designed specifically for model use, but hey, I've been using it now for over a week, and I just love this thing. It's so versatile, and the quality of the video is next to none. It is fantastic. So I'm going to put some video at the end of this review that you'll be able to see, and I'm going to compare it to the Runcam 3, which is also a really good camera, but to be honest, this is twice the price, but it just blows away the Runcam 3, which probably isn't important because you can't buy a Runcam 3 now. And this is a 4K camera. Let's look at some of the features. It's 4K, and unlike some of the other cheaper 4K offerings, it's got a true 8.3 megapixel sensor. It's not just interpolated up from 1080p, and it does 4K at 30 frames a second, which is quite important because a lot of them are limited. I've seen some as low as 14 frames a second, and a lot of them are just 24 frames a second, which is not really, you know, if you're used to 30 frames, 24, it becomes hard to integrate 24 frame per second footage into anything if you're doing a review or something, because most of the camcorders are 25, 50, or 30, 60 frames, and so 24, it's a cinematic frame rate, but it doesn't integrate well with other frame rates. It doesn't play well with other cameras because you have to do what's called a pull-up, which means it has to convert the frame frequency, which often means you get blurring or you get jittering, and it's just not good. Just not good. You really want to record in the native frame rate that you want to be using with your other cameras. So this is brilliant, and it has so many resolutions. You can more than you'll ever need, and it also has SuperView. What's SuperView? Go and look it up. I'm not going to explain it to you, but basically it's a way of making your onboard footage look much faster than it really is. I'll be including some SuperView footage at the end of this review so you can see for yourself what SuperView does. Unfortunately, had a really bad day, shaky hands, and my flying was crap, so it's not really a good indicator of what SuperView can do, but it'll give you a bit of a taste for it, let you know what it does. So what I'll do is, well, I've looked at those basic features. Let's look at the camera itself in a little more detail. Right, here it is in all its glory. First thing you've got to notice is it has an aluminium case. It's not plastic. A lot of the cheap action cameras you find, the GoPro clones, have got plastic cases. This is aluminium, which is good from two perspectives. It's going to be durable, it's going to be tough, it's going to be robust, and also it's going to dissipate the heat because this has a lot of work to do. 4K at 30 frames a second requires a lot of processing power to make it all work, and that processing power creates heat, and this camera, the heat is dissipated through the aluminium case. And when I'm doing outdoor vlogs in the winter, my hand gets nice and cozy warm. It's fantastic. With a plastic camera, it's probably going to produce a lot higher temperatures internally. So there you go. Now, the layout seems to be pretty similar to a GoPro. I've used this in some gimbals, which are designed for GoPro. It seems to fit perfectly, so it seems to have the same width, height, and depth as a GoPro. Now, it's got a lot of buttons and things. Most importantly for most people, it's got an LCD on the back with my grubby fingerprints on it. Look at that. Oh, clean, clean. Touch screen as well. Let's turn it on and I'll show you what I mean. Turned on, it makes a little tinkle tinkle. Oh, it's sweet, isn't it? So there you go. There's the image from the camera, and as you can see, there is a bit of latency. There always is in these things. It's not too bad though, not too bad at all. And it's a touch screen, so if I hit the touch screen, bing, there we go. Now we're in the menus. And if I look at, for example, video resolutions, let's go through there and see what we've got, because I'm sure you'll want to know. These are very important things. There's so many of them. 4K at 30 frames a second, that's the key one. 4K at 25 frames a second, and SuperView. What? Yeah, it does SuperView at 4K. There's the other frames. I'm not going to read them all out. You can just look. I'll just scroll through them. You can see for yourself what it does. And 1080p at 120 frames a second? Are you kidding me? Yeah, kind of, because it doesn't look very good. I'll show you some 120 frame per second 1080p footage later in the video, and it's not that flash. It's got a lot of what do you call it, compression artifacts and things. So I think they're pushing the processor just a little too hard with that one. But there you go. I tend to do most of my stuff 1080p 60 frames a second or 50 frames a second, which I'll get to in a minute. And there we go. We've got 1080p SuperView at 60 frames. And then you've got a whole lot of other woggy formats such as 960. You've got 720p at up to 240 frames a second. If you want to get, I'll show you some of that as well. And again, none of these high speed, high frame rates have audio, so they're just video. Worth knowing that. But I mean, it's got, you know, a whole good range of formats, and you're bound to find one in there that suits you. And as I say, 1080p 60 at the moment is good for me. Let's go back. And you can set this, everything you might want is in there. See, all your bits. It's got a gyro sensor, which is image stabilization. That seems to work. Oops, get the shine off the screen. It's got image stabilization, which works reasonably well, but it works better at high frame rates. At 30 frames per second, I got a bit of jittering on the image stabilization, so I wouldn't use that on the lower frame rates. Use it on the higher frame rates. Motion detect, all that sort of stuff. The features, other people have looked at these cameras. They've gone laboriously through the menus to tell you exactly what it does. If you want to know, go and look at the website. Now, as I said, this was provided by GearBest. There's a link in the description of this video. I'm not a part of an affiliate scheme, but the link will identify that you came from this review, so they'll know, hey, let's send more stuff to RC Model Reviews, because it sends people to our website. So click on that link, and there's also, if you want to buy this thing, and to be honest, I would buy this thing. This is a really good camera. I would buy this thing. If you want to buy it, there's a discount code as well, I think, that you can enter and get some money off. I don't know. Anyway, so as I say, I don't make a bean off it. In the general thing, we've got TV mode here. And this is interesting because you've got PAL and NTSC. Now, I shoot most of my videos with the Sony camera, which has 50 frames a second or 25 frames a second. You notice on here we've got 60 frames, 120. If I change to the PAL mode, like so, something really interesting happens. Let's go back to the camera. Now the video resolutions are not 20 frames, not 30 frames and 60 frames, they're 25 and 50. So this makes it much easier to integrate footage from this camera with my camcorder footage. Woohoo, what a clever idea. The Mobius has offered a sort of what we call a PAL frame rate, but it did it just by dropping frames. Now I haven't checked to see whether this does it by dropping frames, but I will in a later video. Suffice to say, it seems like it has that functionality, which is super cool. I'll just go back and turn that back to 60 because I want to, where are we? I want to go to, I don't know what I'm doing now. I've lost track. TV mode, there we go. Go back to NTSC, there we go, because I'm mixing with some other NTSC footage from the RunCam. Right, so there you go. It tells you up in the top here what you've set up is. Runs for about an hour on a charge, a little bit more maybe, depending on the video resolution you're using. Fine, fantastic. Right, so those are some of the good things. What are the things I don't like? Well, for a start, there's no tripod screw. I really like using these little, hold on, I'll just pull out so you can see what I'm talking about. As I said, I really like using these little tripods, you know, the little beads and things. They're fantastic because I can set this up for B-roll footage on the side of the bench, or I can just, if I'm carrying the camera around, I've got a big handle effectively, but there's no tripod screw mount in the bottom there. That is kind of helped or mitigated by this bracket here, which fits around the camera and then fits into one of these little bases here. So you can see the little fingers go into there, and we can use this, slide this onto, oh sorry, here's the one I'd use. Here it is. I had it already on the tripod. So this will fit into here. Excuse my parky hands today, they're really bad. Yeah, that fits into there. So then you've got your tripod screw base on the bottom of that. See, easy peasy. So it gives you that, but it's just a little bit more fluffing around. One thing I do like, of all the accessories that came with this camera, that is the best one. What is it? It's a flexible silicone lens cover. It means you can put this on here, like so. It won't fall off, and you can put this in your pocket and you won't scratch the lens. That alone is fantastic. Really, really good. Now, these have generally been an aftermarket item for things like the Xiaomi Yi, because I have a Xiaomi Yi, and honestly, the Xiaomi Yi, I never liked it. It was crap. It was too soft, it wasn't sharp, and you had to have a smartphone to set it up because it had no LCD. This, miles better than the Xiaomi in every possible respect. Now, the only downside I did find with this little bracket thing is that it has a lip on the edge which seems to push on the side of the touchscreen, so that sometimes when you put this bracket on, the touchscreen doesn't respond because it's got a little finger touching the corner, which is overriding where your finger goes. Now, I might just give that a bit of fettling, get rid of the lip so that it works. Something to be aware of, though, that thing has its limitations. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, I haven't found too many things that I don't like about this camera. Of course, one of the things everybody will want to know is how much does it weigh if you're going to throw this on a quad or a plane or something. What does it weigh? Well, let's put it on there, and it is 80 grams, give or take a bit, 79, 80, 79 and a half, let's call it. And if you want to use this weatherproof container. It's going to double it up to 164 grams. Why would you use this thing here? Why would you use that? Because I'm a little concerned about this camera and the lens. For miniquad use, you have to be really careful because you see the lens, it kind of pokes out. It's actually just slightly proud of the surround, so if you whack a post or something, you're going to break that lens. But as I say, this seems to be very, very similar to GoPro, so the GoPro protectors and things will probably fit this quite well. And at $200 instead of $350 or $400, you're going to be less concerned about smashing this baby. It is not as good as a GoPro Hero 5, I've got to say. The chipset in here and the sensor are the same as the GoPro 3. So that gives you an idea. It is a bit behind the GoPro 4, but it's only a $200 camera, I think. And of course you get a discount coupon, as I said, if you go through the link in the description, type in the coupon voucher, you get some money off. I don't know how much it is, but it's something. Yeah, it's, I've used it on my Foxtech Lightning miniquad, and I did notice compared to the GoPro 3, so not the GoPro 3, the Runcam 3, I noticed that this did feel a bit heavier when I was flying. My initial flights were a bit up and down because I was learning to compensate for the extra weight. But what I'm going to show you now is the footage I took. I went down to the park, crappy day, overcast, just about to pee down with rain, so the lighting was really, really bad. So I'm going to show you some onboard footage. I put this on the Lightning. Show you some onboard footage from the Lightning, just going around nice and slowly through the trees, like I did with the Runcam 3. Now, this performed really well. I was so impressed. There's very little noise, considering how bad the lighting was. There are very few compression artifacts. If you see any compression artifacts, then they are probably from YouTube, not from the compression software in this camera. This doesn't produce any compression artifacts that I could easily see, certainly not on 1080p. I should mention, I'm having to upgrade my video editing software because I don't have anything that will edit 4K footage. So I'll be upgrading that and doing a follow-up review on this thing, looking at the 4K performance. But at the moment, I'm just looking at the 1080p, and I could not believe how much sharper this was than even the Runcam 3. I mean, this is an uber sharp camera, and I've only got the sharpness setting set on standard. It can actually be sharpened further, which basically is a bit of a trick of the software, but this is just medium setting for the sharpness, so absolutely fantastic. So what I'm going to show you now is a flight on 1080p 60, a flight on 1080p 60 with SuperView, and then I'm going to show you a flight with the Runcam 3 under exactly the same conditions. And you'll notice that everything pops with this camera. It really pops. By comparison, the Runcam 3 looks kind of muted and dull, and there's also a lot more compression artifacts in the Runcam 3. So it's obvious that the compression engine in this thing, the chipset they've used, has got a lot more grunt than the one in the Runcam 3. So there you go. Have a look at that. Then I've got some random bits I'll put on the end. I've got some of the 120 frame per second footage, so you can see how bad that is. And also some of the 240 frames per second at 720p. And anything else I can find, I'll tack on the end. So there you go. My recommendation is that you buy this camera. It is really very, very good value for money. I am so impressed with this camera. It makes my Sony, the camera I'm filming this review with, this camera here, it makes this thing look like last century technology. This is just 1,000 times sharper and clearer, and what can I say? There you go. Now, if you've got questions, comments, put them in the usual place. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to the footage I recorded earlier, and you can see what you think of that. Please ignore the flying. My hands are really bad, and there was actually quite a bit of wind. It didn't show on the trees for some reason, but there was a bit of wind up there when I flew this miniquad. And stay tuned for the 4K review. I'm going to be checking the 4K performance, but honestly, just on its 1080p performance alone, this is a kick-ass camera. And as I say, if you want to look at the specs, use the link in the description, because that will tell GearBest that people are watching the video and they're following the links. And therefore, it's worth sending more stuff for review, be it good or bad, and I'll tell you either way. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Okay, now I'm filming in 1080p 30 to try and make more use of the light, because it's probably a bit grainy on 60 frames. So I'll give you some comparisons anyway. I'm just walking here. Here's the lovely picture of the lake, 1080p 30. I'll just pan around so we get something a bit darker over here, as you can see. But I'm going to switch to the 60 now and we'll see how that works. Okay, now we're in 60 frames a second, and I can't see on the little screen, but I'm suspecting it's going to be a little bit noisier. I'm going to get a bit more noise out of this thing. Again, I'll pan back and I'll go to 120. You'll be able to see the effect that the 120 frames has and how it really starts getting grainy.